All right, welcome everybody. I'm really excited about today's interview that we're going to do here with Matt King, and I'm not gonna share a lot about Matt. I want him to explain himself because his journey is a unique one that I think everybody should hear. Just just grind, a sense of just hard work getting to where he is today, but also being super intentional with who you're with and how that can change the outcome of your life as well. So I think he's going to be the best one to do that. But administratively, real quick, the corporate battlefield, why we do this, why we give this for free. Uh, for those of you that haven't listened to our mission before, I believe that there's a battle between good and evil in this world, and you can do what most people do and just ignore it, or you can be a part of the fight for good with me. And I believe that in order to take the fight for good, we have to have influence, and influence, I think, is one in two ways: one with leadership and one with wealth. I know people in position of leadership that do it well, and people that have wealth. Other people, they want the life that you have, so they're going to follow you. And so I think good people have a responsibility to go do their best in those two regards, so that we can go influence the world to be a better place. And that's my mission here, is just to leave the world a better place than I found it. And I'm raising my kids that way, and hopefully you all on this journey with me will be a part of that too. And so I've invited Matt here to share how he's leading effectively. I've watched him do this for a number of years now, and how he's building his wealth, which he's doing a really great job with. And so, Matt, thank you. I'm very grateful for this. At the end of this video, we're going to ask everybody to Venmo an account we have set up, anything, any dollar amount, so that we can give that to teachers in financial need. I mean, we don't make any money on this. We just give it all away.
Nice.
And we've got thousands of dollars for this. So this, it's a good thing.
That's awesome, man. That's beautiful. I love what you said there on just leaving the world a better place. I think that's all our duty, our responsibility, and I think it's a great commitment each and every one of us can make. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, the reason why you and I are in places that we're in is because we've been gifted with talents. We have skills. We've earned treasure. And I think, with that, we have a responsibility to help those that are in need, whether they're family or friends or people we don't even know. So,
Yeah, I believe that's true.
all right, cool. All right. So these people may not know anything about you. So if you could tell them a little bit about yourself personally, but also
Yeah.
I'd like you to tell them about the organization that you're running right now.
Cool. Yeah. So look, man, I'm at the end of the day, I'm a husband. I'm a father. I'm a student of life. I was born and raised in a small town in Wisconsin. Was dating a girl at the time who now happens to be my wife, who said I was going to go teach in the inner city schools of Washington, D.C. This was after I dropped out of college and started my own business. And I said, great, I'll come with you. She responded, by the way, and said I didn't invite you, but I said, I'm not going to worry about that. I'm coming anyways.
Yeah,
but what I've recognized in life is, honestly, I think we have the ability to find the way or make the way to live and dream and be whatever we want to be. And I've always believed that I've had inside of me the ability to do whatever I desired. And so when I dropped out of school, people thought I was crazy. When I moved to DC, people thought I was crazy. When I moved to Austin, Texas, people thought I was crazy. But at the end of the day, I've always focused on, first, coming from integrity, do what I say what I do. Being a family man, like, it's important to me to have a great relationship with my family, my parents, my in-laws, my wife, my sister, my children, and then to be a good steward. And for me, from my perspective, being a good steward isn't just about money. Like, it's about knowledge. It's about, like, just stopping and say thanks. Like, one of my favorite things to do is I will stop randomly in random places and just thank people for doing a good job. And I learned this trait, honestly, from my father-in-law, who's this incredible human being who was a mechanic at the bus company for 42 years. I mean, find somebody that worked the same job for 42 years. I dare you. And every once in a while, he'll go up to the most random stranger and he'll say, has anybody told you you're doing a wonderful job today? And people light up like Christmas trees, the bartenders, the janitors, the pilots. Like, people think it's kind of funny and it's cute, but they're like, it's just beautiful to hear. And so, I'll stop in the airport. I'll stop on the side of the road. I'll just talk to people. And, one of my favorite conversations, I was up in Ohio a couple of months ago, and I was walking through the airport, and it was like 11 at night. So the airport's like a ghost town.
Yeah.
And there's a janitor sweeping the floor, singing, just hanging out. And he was probably 55, 60. And I just stopped him. I'm like, hey man, I just want to thank you for all you do. And like had the most beautiful 3-minute conversation with this random stranger, just appreciating him and seeing how
Yeah.
powerful our words are. We don't
Yeah.
understand how powerful it is to just look at somebody and say thank you and just
Yeah.
pause and see them. Because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, every human wants to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be loved. And
Yeah.
we, as leaders, have the ability to do that consistently with our people, with our family, with our friends, and with strangers.
Yeah.
And so, that's who I am. I'm this crazy. I'm gonna go get what I want from the world, and I'm gonna make sure I bring everybody along on the journey. I'm pretty much all action. I think action beats inaction 100% of the time. And I'm trying to have a little fun on the journey too.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. All right. So you're leading GoBundance now.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that organization, the mission that you have, or the vision you have for it, and
Yeah.
and where as you've led it or been a part of it, how it's progressed over the last few years.
Yeah, look, GoBundance is this incredible entrepreneurial based mastermind group with 900 members across the United States. And I think the greatest thing any one of us can do is become a leader of leaders. When you
Yeah.
can lead a room of leaders, that I think is the ultimate sign of leadership. And so I'm like super grateful and super humbled to be leading rooms of leaders inside of GoBundance. The
Yeah.
cumulative net worth of our group is over $5.4 billion. That's greater than the GDP of like 28 different countries. And I don't say that to say, wow, look at how big that is. I say that to say, wow, look at how big of an impact we have. And where do I
Yeah.
see GoBundance going is I believe, just as you said to start this call, we literally have the ability to change the world and leave it a better place than we found it. And I think
Yeah.
if we can empower and enable leaders, men that can go impact their families, that can go impact their businesses, that can go impact their communities, we will change the world. And so I'm trying to lead from a place of authenticity, vulnerability, curiosity, and also from a place of understanding that the collective genius of the room is far greater than any one human could possibly be. And
Yeah.
so, it's a really cool, really powerful group that's really focused, no different than this. And like, how do we become the best versions of ourselves, not just in business,
Yeah.
but in personal, in contribution, with our health, with our friends, with our
Yeah.
family.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a client,
Yeah.
and
Member.
or member. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a teammate there.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's a humbling organization for a person to even step into. And what's great is within the small groups, you'll notice that some of us have certain parts really dialed in, and then the humbling part is what, well, man, they're just so far ahead of me in this other stuff,
Yep.
and I've got a lot to learn from that aspect of their lives, and there's not, at least in the groups that I've been in, there's not one person that has it all, right? We all are working on something, and that's a beautiful thing to see too. Even with these guys that you think just on the outside they have it all, they're vulnerable enough to show like, no, we've got something to learn from you too. So
Yeah, I
good.
mean, look, I think what's interesting is I feel as though so many people are chasing this thing called balance. And
Yeah.
in reality, like balance from my perspective isn't possible.
Yeah.
Balance in our life is more like having a limited amount of water with too many buckets. And
Yeah.
there's no way we can possibly achieve balance because over time the buckets will decay a little bit, a hole will pop up, we'll have to go
Yeah.
fix that bucket, and then another one pops a leak. And so at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I think it's important for each and every one of us to have incredible people around us that aren't afraid to call us on our stuff and say,
Yeah.
hey, Matt, I see how hard you're working in business, man. It's inspiring. I'm honored to know you. And what are your kids going to say about you on your deathbed?
Yeah.
Like, ooh, that's a good question. Let me think about that. Hey, Matt, love the way you're leading, love the way you're showing up as a family man, but your health, like that cheeseburger and fries, a couple pounds overweight, are you okay with that? And if I say
Yeah.
yes, great, leave me alone. But at the end of the day, we need people that aren't afraid to hold us accountable to being better than maybe we are showing up on a day-to-day basis, and not from a place of I'm better than you, but a place of I think you can do better. How can I help
Yeah.
you? How can I support
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just to your point, I'm reading the book right now that I've been journaling about online, and balance, it might be impossible, but focus isn't.
That's right.
Focus very possible. And
Yep.
most people say focus is this thing that you either have or you don't have, but really focus is something you do. So we all have that responsibility to go do, and to have friends or peers that'll call us out when we're not focused. I mean, that's accountability that not everybody has. So
Yes.
you got to seek it. Yeah.
And not everybody's comfortable with. Most
Yep.
people would rather just surround themselves with friends that go, yeah, dude, that cheeseburger was great. Next time, let's get the double stack.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Right.
easier. That's more comfortable.
Yeah, it is. Hey, one thing. All right, so we just hosted an event, right?
Yep.
Or you just hosted an event that I was fortunate enough to participate in, and I wanted to hit this before we moved on, because you said the words have power, and we ought to express that to others so that they feel the gratitude, and it makes them feel better. You did an exercise where you were like, hey, pull out your phone and text 1, 2, 3 people that you haven't talked to in a while, just how you feel about them. And I read this in the book, The Happiness Advantage.
Okay.
It was a tactic that was explained in the book. And they were like, the whole point was, this is how you become happy, is you do little things like this, not to mention how you make the other person feel. But tell everybody what you had us all do, and then maybe share a story, because I know you asked people to kind of share their story. Maybe share one that you still remember that was meaningful.
Well, what is really cool is like when life gets busy, which all of us have chaos in our lives, whether it's social media chaos or family chaos or personal chaos. Life. The world we live in today is made to be busy. There's a lot of distractions everywhere. And so one of the things I'm focused on is trying to myself become more present. And in addition to that, trying to help people become more present, because I believe presence is where happiness can actually be found. And so the way that you try to embody presence, I think, is to pause and reflect and say, wow, like life is beautiful. Wow, life is great. And so the exercise I asked people to do was, I said, I want you to pull out your phone and I want you to text somebody that you're incredibly grateful for, that doesn't maybe know it or doesn't maybe hear it all the time, and just let them know truly what they mean to you. And the cool part about this exercise is I've done it at a couple of different of my speaking engagements, and people cry. Like literally they send a text, 30 seconds later, they get the most beautiful response. And there is a grown man, a grown woman sitting in the audience bawling because they just let their mom or their dad know how they truly felt. And maybe their entire life, all they were seeking was the approval of their parents and the love of their parents and the grace of their parents. And in 30 seconds, they get the most beautiful, powerful text that has been there the whole time, but they've been seeking. And all of a sudden, just by saying, thanks, mom, they get that response. And so when we were at the event, a couple of the people that I talked to, one of the ladies was like, I don't have a great relationship with my father. And so I texted him a beautiful text, and, he responded and basically joked and said, have you been drinking? And I bring that up because I think what I heard in that story is the dad was impacted so deeply that he didn't know how to respond besides make a joke from it.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is the girl just responded and said, ha ha, and let it move on. And so I challenged her, as I'm sure you remember, and I said, are you okay with your relationship remaining where it's at? And she's like, no. I'm like, well, then you can't accept that response. You have to go back to him and not let us use humor to skirt emotion like most of us try to do, and say, wow, dad, I'm serious. I really don't like where our relationship is headed. And I just want you to know the impact you've had on my life. And I think about you daily, and I can't wait for the day that we get to hug again, or whatever you want to say, whatever you need to say, whatever you're feeling to say. And it's something I'm not perfect at. I try to do more and more of it. But just reflecting on the people that have gotten you to this place you are now, and reflecting on just what it takes and what it costs you to send a 30-second text message saying, thank you so much. Thanks for believing in me. Thanks for trusting me. Thanks for loving me, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you certainly have a vision for who you're going to be, you personally. And I just, by hanging around you, I know now you're very intentional with the way that you use your words. And this group probably has heard me say this a couple of times. I tell my daughter and my son to say yes sir or no sir, like religiously. And then when they mess it up and I say, hey, yes sir, and they say yes sir, I say, well, why does daddy have you say that? And they immediately say back, because you want us to think before we speak. And that's just it. Like when she texted back, haha, she wasn't operating true to the vision that she has for herself or being intentional with her words. She was just, like you said, moving on.
Yeah.
But like you won't do that. Like you're going to be intentional with it.
Yeah. Here's what I'll tell you. I try not to do it. And I understand that I'm a human and I have faults and I have flaws, and there are going to be days that I mess up. But the question is do you judge yourself in those moments, or do you give yourself grace? Do you recognize the fact that we all are human beings? And then do you course correct it by yourself moving forward, because you do have that vision of who you are. And so, I have a very strong vision for my life. I have a strong, vision and strong goals. I mean, I believe that self-confidence in our children specifically is really built and made from the time they're about 3 to the time they're about 8. After 8, I think they're sort of like, they're either going to be confident or they're going to doubt themselves. And so I would say once a day at a minimum, I look at my daughter and I say like, wow, how did you get so beautiful? And like the other day, she had this new dress on and she was twirling. I said, Rylan, come here, come here, come here. She's like, why, Dad? I'm like, I got to tell you a secret. She's like, rolls her eyes. She's 5. And she's like, I already know what you're going to say. You're going to say, how am I so beautiful?
Yeah.
And I was like, that's right. How are you? And so like, now I know that's her internal dialogue.
Yeah.
Like, how powerful is that? But again, I think, touching on what you said, I try to be very intentional with my words, because I understand that my words are either tools or they're weapons. And I have the choice as to how I'm going to use those words. And when I mess up, I acknowledge it. I appreciate it. I give myself some grace, some compassion, and I move on.
Yep. Totally. Yeah. At my house, we say your words are life-giving or they're life-taking.
Yeah. Well said. I like that.
Don't use them lightly. All right. While we're on the event, I mean, it was great. It was a 3-day event. So there was true to an event with a lot of value. There was a lot. I'm interested to hear what was your kind of main takeaway, because you're fortunate enough to get to do these on a pretty regular basis. So for you to have a aha, I was just interested in what you took.
Yeah. So for me, I had 2 really big ahas. One was to stop focusing on the metric and focus on the mission. So like, I am very KPI driven. I'm very goal driven. I'm very numbers driven. Rich Roll said when he built his brand, or he built his book, or he built his podcast, he never focused on the metrics. He only focused on the mission. And that was a really good reminder for me to not get lost in the numbers, but rather get lost in the mission and trust that the numbers will take care of themselves. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean I can turn a blind eye to the numbers and ignore them, but it just means I need to remind myself like where to put my focus and my energy. Yeah. And the other big aha I had, partially at that event and then partially like rolling into the next 2 that I led earlier this week, was at the end of the day, so many people are seeking their purpose, they're seeking clarity, and they're seeking their why. And they're doing it all without a 5-year vision for their life and what their life should be looking like from their perspective in 5 years. Yeah. And I was just amazed at the power that a vision can have on your life. And I was just sort of called to try to educate and help more people get that 5-year vision for themselves. I felt as though a lot of people were wandering slightly aimlessly through life. And I felt slightly sad. I felt slightly nervous, and I felt totally excited, because I don't think we have to. I truly believe purpose, why, all of those things are a journey, not a destination. And I think if we can reframe them as this is a journey that's evolving and changing and continuing to move forward, I think we can find inner peace for many people. And that was exciting for me. Yeah.
No, that's great. Yeah. I mean, I'm not as numbers driven as you, I don't think, naturally. But vision, and then, obviously I'm led by purpose. That's why I am intentional, because I have a clear purpose for myself. And then I know what makes a vision seem believable is a plan. So I'm very much a plan driven person, because I know that that's what drives action. So
absolutely.
That's good. Cool. All right. So you credited David a lot from stage with a lot of your success and who you are. I'm just interested, like, how has that mentorship evolved, or that leadership evolved over time? And then what are the two or three just staples that he's given you that you just, they're going to be principles in your life far into the future?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm super fortunate to have been around him for the last 10 years. I mean, I met this guy who's an incredible businessman, an incredible human, an incredible leader, incredible visionary. You know, when I was 23 years old, like just,
Yeah.
you know, got super lucky. And he's just had an incredible impact on my life, not just for me personally, but like my family, my in-laws, my parents, my friends, like everybody I come in contact with has like reaped the benefits of the impact he's had on my life.
Yeah.
And you know, at the end of the day, when I first started with him, it was funny because when I started dating my wife, we were friends first. And so I was dating my wife and we were, you know, a week or two or three into like dating officially. And I was at her house and we were going to go to dinner or something like that. And she was in the shower getting ready. And I was sitting at the counter with her parents and we were just talking. And her dad walks out of the room and her mom, like, it was like she was waiting forever to corner me. And she looks at me and she's like, "What are your intentions with my daughter?" I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I'd marry her. So like,
Yeah.
hopefully to marry your daughter.
Yeah.
And so the same
I'm moving
conversation
to
happened with,
DC.
what's that?
I'm moving to DC.
Yeah, right. It's like,
Yeah.
like, yes, man. Like, I'm like, what do you want me to say? Like, what is that supposed to say,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But then I was one day with David, and I was probably about 12 months into working with him, and he like cornered me at a restaurant, and he's like, "What are your intentions?" I was
Yeah.
like, "Look, man, my intentions are to be so valuable to you that I'm next to you on your deathbed." And I'm like, I see a path to achieving all of my goals and more inside of your organization. And the
Yeah.
only way that I ever see not achieving that intention is if I no longer see a way to achieve my goals.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and again, this is that humor thing. When we feel a little discomfort, we use humor. He goes, "Man, that's incredible, but you'll probably die before me because you're handling all the stress."
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, "You jerk. Like, here I'm telling you like this like really powerful, meaningful
Yeah.
thing."
Yeah.
Now I look back on it and go like, "Holy shit, he was right. Like I probably am going to die before him because I am dealing with all the stress."
Yeah. Yeah. I was
But
going to say there's some wisdom in that comment.
there was a lot, man. Like, and it was like a sly little, you know, sneaky joke. But the wisdom in that comment was, don't love anything that can't love you back.
Yeah.
Meaning like he wasn't attached to the outcomes of his business as much as I am, because I was younger, I'm hungry, like, and I'm just inexperienced. And so the wins were so powerful and the losses were so painful. And so I would say the three staples that I've learned from David is, you know, first and foremost, have a vision for your life.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, the first person that you meet every day will give you theirs. Now, the second staple I've learned from him, probably like what we just talked about, is don't love anything that can't love you back. We pour so much energy into, like, I'm a huge Packers fan. We pour so much energy into the Green Bay Packers, but yet no player has ever called and wished me a happy birthday.
Yeah.
You know, like, so why do I care if they win or lose? Now, I can enjoy the game and I can have fun and I can want them to win and I can want them to do well. But once the game's over, move on. Like, there's no sense in me holding that energy. Yeah. And I would tell you the last thing that I've learned from David that I'll take with me is the power of leverage, and the power of leverage with regards to humans, to talent. And it's this concept of going from I do it to we do it to they do it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, as you transition and make those transitions in life, the cool thing about it is you find leverage so you have more time to impact more people, but you also give somebody an opportunity with leverage where they can build themselves up, find confidence, create an opportunity, and provide for their family, and maybe create generational wealth for their family if that's what they desire. So at the end of the day, it's all about people.
Yeah. Well, and I had a question prepared, like, what would David have to do to continue to retain you? I mean, and you said it already. I mean, his vision has to be big enough so that you can see your world fitting inside there. And so what's do you have anybody in your current organization that's pushing you to think that way, to grow your vision so that you continue to just push the boundaries there?
Yeah. So what's interesting is I've always had that perspective. Like, I was always like, I got to have a world where people can see their visions inside of mine. What's interesting is over the last, I'd honestly call it 3 months, and I'll be like honest and vulnerable with you guys. Like, over the last 3 months, it's been really hard leading. Like I've been really struggling. I've been really frustrated. And what I've recognized is what I thought was talent 12 months ago isn't the same talent that I need today. And it's
Yeah.
not because they're bad people. It's not because they're incapable people. It's because my vision for what that role needs to do has increased beyond their capabilities.
Yeah.
And so I would tell you right now, I have finally got into a place inside of my business, David's business, GoBundance, all of these businesses, where I am finally comfortable and confident in hiring people that are going to push me. And not just like push me as in like say no, but push me as in like, if you don't freaking start running, like you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
And so we just hired a new head of membership to help us inside of GoBundance. And it's an incredible human, a great guy, just, really focused on doing the right thing, high integrity and stuff. But he's got a huge vision for his life. I mean, he's
Yeah.
early 40s. He's got 2 young kids, wife, and his vision for his life is big, it's powerful, and it's inspiring, and it's motivating me to think bigger, become a better leader, to become a better communicator, and also to just continue to take action on the vision I have for my life, for things like GoBundance, because if I don't, he will self-select out by saying I can't achieve my goals.
Yep. 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 Man, I think that's awesome to have someone like that in your organization. And you were vulnerable with us about how it makes you feel. And I had written about this in the past, but we don't have to be perfect as leaders. The one responsibility that we do have, though, is to stay one step ahead of our people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can stay one step ahead, then they'll always respect you because you're just ahead of them, and they're chasing you. They want your life, a portion of your life they want. So they're chasing you down. But you don't have to be 10 steps ahead. You don't have to be the John Maxwell of leadership. What you have to be is one step ahead. And is that how it plays out in your life? You're sitting around thinking so that you can always be one step ahead, or do you think you're multiple steps ahead?
I mean, I think it depends on the day. I think there's days where I'm 5 steps ahead, and I think there's days where I feel as though I'm a step behind. And again, it's about just grace. It's about just understanding that, yesterday, for example, was a brutal day. I mean, I wake up every day at 4:17. I'm pretty disciplined. I like to get into my gym. I like to work out. I like to do my sauna, my cold plunge. Like I love my mornings. I journal. I read. I just have a routine. And so I woke up and then life just got thrown at me like, calls, legal battles, hiring, challenges in the business. Like it was just a day.
Yeah.
And I had made arrangements to go with my kids to a splash pad for dinner. And, there was a part of me that's like, I can just stay and work and then meet them when they get home. But I was like, I made this commitment. So I shut it down, went to that thing, and then put the kids to bed. And then there I was sitting in my office last night at 11:30, still grinding, still hustling, still working.
Yeah.
And yesterday I felt behind, man. Like I was frustrated. I was angry. I was sad. I was doubting myself. I was questioning myself. And so that would be a day where I'd be like, dude, I was behind my people. But what I would tell you is I'm willing to put in the work to get back ahead of them, like you just said. And so I did the work while they were all sleeping. I did the work while most of the world is just relaxing. Got myself in a position where now this morning we had legal call. We had all this stuff. I was 5 steps ahead of everybody today. And I feel great about that, right? And that is my job. That's my responsibility as a leader. And so I think as leaders, it's important for us to recognize that the only difference between a rut and a grave is how long we choose to stay there. And so as a leader, you're going to get in ruts. You're going to have a day where you feel as though you're one step behind. Just don't choose to make it a grave and stay there and let it go 1 day, 3 days, 5 days, 300 days. And all of a sudden your team passes you by.
That's right. Yeah. And whether you win at the end of the day, or you feel like it was a setback, what I've tried to share with people is how you end the day is still under your control, mindset wise. And how you end the day will impact what you think about when you first wake up. And so for you, like, do you have a routine at night? I mean, do you journal, or do you have any kind of routine where you just, all right, I had this tough day and I had to stay up later than I normally do. But just hit that reset right before you hit the pillow to make sure that when you wake up, you're in the right mindset.
Yeah, so like last night's a great example. So I'm, up in my office till 11:30, and I was sitting there at about 10:30, just like grinding, feeling frustrated, but I was making progress. And I thought to
Yeah.
myself, like, how are you going to wind down to get to bed? Because you're like in this
Yeah.
battle, like, right,
Yeah.
this hypothetical battle
Yeah.
of your email and all this stuff. And so I turned on our sauna, and like literally it's 11:30 last night, and I was just sitting in the sauna, and I was meditating, and I was sitting there just like looking out on this dark sky, and I was just
Yeah.
thinking about like the vision I have for my life and how so many people think success comes without hard work, but in reality, it's the hard work that yields success, and it's the
Yeah.
days where people don't see you putting in the work that actually make you successful. And I
Yeah.
just reminded myself of the fact that like my kids are going to do what I do, not what I say. And so
Yeah.
it's cute that I can say all the right things to them, but how am I actually going to show up as a man, as a
Yeah.
father? So I
Yeah.
was like sitting there envisioning like, my kid, like if they were sitting here looking at me right now, what would they be thinking? And I'm like, man, they'd be proud. And like, so I went to bed very proud of myself to not shy away from the hard work.
Yeah.
Most days I have a visualization process. So I have a vision board. I took my 5-year vision and I made it into like a Disney map. And my
Yeah.
vision board is above my dresser. So when I put my socks on in the morning and when I put my clothes away at the end of the night, there's my vision board and I'm looking at it. And
That's
then when
good.
I lay in bed, I oftentimes before I get into bed, I will look at my calendar for the next day and I'll try to visualize myself walking into that first meeting, getting on that first call in a
Yeah.
beautiful manner. Like the energy is positive, the room is
Yeah.
bright, people are smiling.
Yeah.
And I just try to do visualization. I'm a big journaler, but I'm a morning journaler.
Yeah.
I'm fresher in the morning, so
Yeah.
I do have a process, and I start my day honestly with that visualization process of like, okay, great. Every single morning my team sends me an email with all of my calls or all of my stuff. So it's like, this morning it was 7:30, 8:30, 9, 11, 10, so it's all of my stuff outlined in an email. And
Yeah.
as I'm reviewing it, because I'm such a distracted human, I have to set an alarm 2 minutes before every single call because otherwise I'll forget about them. So as
Yeah.
I'm sitting there adding them into my phone for the alarm, I visualize it going well, positive,
Yeah.
energetic, awesome, results I want,
Yeah.
and I just try to embody that in
Yeah.
what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just talking about being healthy, right? I think that health as a leader matters so much in
Yeah.
not only your own personal production, but when you walk in that healthy mindset or with healthy energy to the team, I mean, they got one option, like it would be weird if they acted a different way. So
Yep.
it's important, critical. I want to shift from leadership to wealth building. Any
Yeah.
last things on leadership that you want to share? Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
a
So
journey.
it's a journey. Yeah. Progress, not perfection, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. You're around a lot of wealthy people doing more things than you could possibly do in pursuing wealth. So what would you call your core 2 or 3 wealth building, areas of your life that you've kind of said, all right, I'm going to take a stand here. This is what we're going to be great at. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think the greatest wealth determiner in any one of our lives is the number one thing people forget about, and it's ourselves.
Yeah.
So I am focused solely on making sure that I am the best version of myself from a wealth determiner perspective that I possibly can be. And
Yeah.
so for me, the wealthiest place has to be me, has to be my being, my mind, my body, my spirit, because without those things, wealth is irrelevant.
Yeah.
The thing I would tell you is, as each and every one of us need to have a vision for what wealth looks like for us. For some, it is just paying the bills and not having to stress. For others, it is private airplanes and being able to solve hunger in the world. Everybody has a different vision for it.
Yeah.
But you have to have a vision for how do you define being wealthy. If your definition of wealthy is financial freedom and not having to be sort of tied to a job, but being able to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, I think the vehicles to focus on are real estate. If
Yeah.
your definition of wealthy is like change the world, create generational wealth, and solve hunger, I would tell you that I don't believe passive income is the vehicle by which you can achieve that. I think
Yeah.
passive income is a great vehicle for financial freedom, but not
Yeah.
serious generational wealth. So
Yeah.
for me, my definition of wealth is more generational. It's bigger. It's bigger than just paying the bills. And so I'm focused right now on businesses. I believe that business is the way to actually build serious wealth. And when
Yeah.
people say businesses, what I say is find your unfair advantage where heads you win and tails they lose. For me,
Yeah.
it's operating businesses. Like, I've just been around it. I'm fortunate to understand it. I understand how to move the KPIs. I get the levers to pull. I'm good at making quick decisions. I'm confident. And so,
Yeah.
like, I'm a big believer in operating businesses. And so I've been fortunate to be able to structure deals with the opportunities I'm running now where I have earning opportunities where I can have a piece of the growth and I can have an opportunity there. I'm fortunate to be able to understand how to look at other operating businesses for myself and my family that we have. And I'm fortunate to like have a vision for my life. So I want to own a landscaping company. So the landscaper was like, hey, I'd love to be a partner with you. Like, what would that look like? I'm like, well, you tell me what it looks like. He's like, well,
Yeah.
how about I sell you 20% of the company? And I have a vision for my life. And one of my visions is I'm not doing anything unless I have control. So I was like, look, I love it. I appreciate it. And I can't accept it. I don't do anything for less than 50%. And he's like, okay, no problem. It won't work. Well, he was watching some of my content. He's been following some of my podcasts. And he came back to me about 2 months later. And he's like, all right, I'm in 50-50. What do I have to do? And so like now I'm in business with our landscaping guy, but I've structured it in a way where I can help him, but I also have an oh shit button to hit if I need to, such that
Yeah.
I'm not stuck in business with this human that I don't want to be in business with. So
Smart.
I think at the end of the day, you just have to be willing to have that vision and then
Yeah.
not compromise for that, for anything, for that vision. Like I wanted a landscaping business so bad, and my vision is have control. So I can't do it unless I have control.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and control and leading, I know, are two different things.
Yeah.
So, you partnered with this individual. Is he still leading the company? Even though
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
important is
So,
that when you're looking at the business? How important is it that there is a leader in it already?
oh, it's absolutely crucial. I mean, one of the things that I know is I cannot achieve the scale in my life that I want to without each business having its own operator.
Yeah.
Like, and again, that becomes a challenge for me is can I be a leader of leaders, not a
Yeah.
leader of followers? And so a leader of leaders means each one of those businesses that I'm owning, investing in, operating have leaders in those businesses that are
Yeah.
able to handle the day to day, that are able to handle driving the metrics and the KPIs again towards that mission. And I'm there to provide support, I'm there to provide feedback, and I'm there to kind of help as needed. But if I'm the one that the business is dependent on, then I have a job. I don't have a business that I own.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you lead GoBundance. How often are you meeting with these folks that are in businesses that you're affiliated with or invested in?
Yeah, the most frequent is one time a week. I don't like
Yeah.
any more frequent than that. Ideally, it's every other week. That's like the perfect scenario for me.
Yeah.
I'm obviously always available. I'm talking to people all the time, texts, calls, emails, all that stuff. But like a standard formatted meeting is one time a week at most,
Yeah.
and preferably every other week.
Yeah. And so you're hunting these businesses that you can add value to, and you use the word leverage a lot. To me, I've always thought of leverage as processes, tools, and
Yeah.
people. I mean, is that what you're actually like? I
mean,
know I can help you in these three areas, or I mean, what's the one thing you're always hunting?
I mean, I'm just always hunting for an unfair advantage. So like,
Yeah.
how can we structure something where, heads we win, tails they lose? So the landscaping business, I'm like, I happen to live in a community with 125 homes. All of the homes have an acre to an acre and a half lot. 90% of the people in this neighborhood don't cut their own grass. 90% of the people in this neighborhood use a lawn service. And of those 90%, probably 15 different lawn services are servicing this neighborhood. Doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, well, who do we need to become in terms of a landscaping company such that we provide this neighborhood a benefit where we park the trucks once and we're able to hit 90% of the yards in a day and make it the most efficient, most profitable day for the landscaping business, and give these residents in this community a benefit where it's like you were paying $75, but now because we're servicing so many people in your neighborhood, you're paying $50.
Yeah.
So it's like they win and we win, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always looking for like an unfair advantage.
Yeah. I don't know why this happened. That popped in my head. It's like, well, everybody gets their grass cut on Friday morning so that when they have people over on the weekends, the whole neighborhood looks great.
Looks perfect, right? And then it's like, okay, so now we've penetrated these customers through their lawn service.
Yeah.
How many of them have pools? Okay, well, 50% of the 90% have pools. Well, great. Why don't on Fridays, to your point, while we cut their grass, we also clean their pools? So Saturday when their friends come over, the pool's sparkling, the grass is clean, and everything's great. And
Yeah.
oh, they need their driveway pressure washed. Cool, we do that too, right? And so
Yeah.
can you start to stack with
Yeah.
relationships and with actually delivering an experience for people? Can you start to stack it so again that you have the odds in your favor?
Yep. Yep. Okay, that's great. So the guys in GoBundance, what traits now? And let's just say wealthy in legacy wealth. Okay, so
Yeah.
similar to what you're after. What traits do you see in those individuals that are more common than not? Like I just notice it right when these guys walk up.
Yeah, I would say the number one thing is they're intentional with their time.
Yeah.
Most people, I think, are a victim to whatever the world throws at them that day, meaning they get lost in the news, they get lost on social media, they get lost driving their kids to school, whatever it looks like, right? That like life just sucks them in. Most successful people that I surround myself with are very intentional with their time. Their calendar is something that they protect, something that they hoard, and something that they follow very, very religiously, very intently. And the other thing I would tell you is I think most successful people have a short-term memory, meaning people think that in order to be successful, you can't fail. But in reality, in order to be successful, the number one thing is you can't stop when you do fail. And so most of the guys inside of GoBundance, what I see is they have a short-term memory. So when they fail, they keep moving forward in spite of that failure, in spite of that fear of failing again, and they keep taking action. And most of these people have been punched. Most of these people have been knocked down. Most of these people have been kicked in ways where you would look at them and go, why are you still doing it?
Yeah.
And in reality, it's because they have, again, that short-term memory and they're not afraid to take another chance, take another risk.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when I was playing ball, I guess about 20 years ago now, but they used to talk about Tom Brady and the chip that he has on his shoulder, and the chip matters, you know, and you only get the chip when you've been hit in the face, right?
Yeah.
You have to be tested in order to even have that.
Yeah.
And you see it in him, you can see it in guys like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about that is you only get the chip. Everybody gets hit in the face, all of us.
Yeah.
But you only have the chip when you have the confidence and belief in yourself that you can respond to that punch in the face.
Yeah.
And Tom Brady had the belief and the confidence in himself to respond when he got punched, when he got hit, right?
Yeah.
There's other people who, when they get hit, they're like, I deserve that. I suck. I'm not good enough. They have all this negative self-talk around it. But if you have a vision for your life, and if you know that you're capable to make the way or find the way, whichever you choose, when you get punched in the face, that chip on your shoulder gets a little bit bigger because you know you're capable of handling it.
Yeah. Yep. Man, I think that's a good place to end it. If you guys have questions, type them into the chat window now, and I'll ask a couple of questions from those of you that are watching. But I'll just ask you now, Matt, like any last comments or words of wisdom with those that are going to see this video that you just want to share?
Yeah, I think the last thing I would say, and thank you for having me. It's been fun. I've enjoyed this conversation. Is don't die with regrets. All of us, the one guarantee we all got, we're going into the ground or we're going to get cremated. Like we're going to die, guaranteed. I don't know. You could, maybe longevity happens. You live to 150. I don't know what the number is, but every single one of us at some point, our number is going to get called. The clock's going to end.
Yeah.
The thing is as they lower you into the ground, assuming you wanted to get buried, will you also be buried with regret?
Yeah.
And that's my mission, is to never be buried with regret. I don't want to say, I wish I would have, I wish I could have, I should have, I think I might have. I'm going to make sure that when they lower me into the ground, there is no ghost of regret around me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said, man. Well, let me just say, I'm grateful for the time that you spent with us. If any of you all got value from this, I don't care if it's $5, $500. We're going to put the Venmo account in the comments of this post. And I would just ask that you make that donation, and we give 100% of the revenue to teachers in financial need. And our these folks, so leaving the world a better place. Our teachers spend more time with our kids than we do, and they're so important to the outcome of what the future looks like. And they don't make a lot of money. It is a job of service for them, and so we've helped people repair their cars. We've helped people pay their lease when they've fallen behind. I mean, we've helped these teachers in a lot of cool ways. And if we are able to continue to do that, please do donate something, or find a teacher yourself and just give directly. I mean, I think it's a great mission to have. All right, Matt, dude, I'm grateful. Hey, actually, how can people find you, or how can they follow you? I mean, you mentioned your podcast.
Yeah. So I would say the number one way is just follow me on Instagram. It's mattking.atx. Like, that's where my team is really focused on making sure, regardless of where I am, you can find it through that vehicle. If you also want to have some fun, check me out there. I just bought a 20-acre ranch out here in Dripping Springs with absolutely zero knowledge on animals. And I bought a bunch of Longhorns off of Craigslist. I sold the Black Angus on Craigslist. Like, it's just a pretty fun, pretty cool story.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And
dude, we'll have to talk about bees. I just started bees on my ranch.
So did you?
It's fascinating. But yeah, we'll have to talk about that.
I had a friend who came to me and said, hey, you should do bees. And I said, I'll buy the thing, but you have to do the bees because I got to learn about these Longhorns first. But bees are definitely on my my radar. I'd love to learn about those. I just don't want to get stung. Like, I just really don't.
No, dude. My father tends to them.
Okay.
But I have a suit. My daughter has a suit. My son, he doesn't want to be around the bees, and it's kind of a cool thing. But we'll talk about it.
Check it out. I should learn about the bees because I would love to have like that honey right off of our ranch. That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, right? The reason I did it was I'm on a mission to build playgrounds, and the way I define a playground is it's a place where my family and my friends can build memories. Like, if you think back on your childhood, most of your memories were probably on a playground somewhere, playing pickup ball, playing on a swing set late at night. Maybe it was even kissing the first girl underneath a slide. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, I'm on this mission to build playgrounds. And so the ranch is a playground for me and for my family. So the first week we had it, I get all these Longhorns delivered. I got my mom out there, my dad out there, my wife, my children, my 88-year-old grandmother. Longhorns get delivered, ATVs getting delivered. Grandma's on a 50cc ATV driving around the ranch. Dad's hanging out. Like, mom, it's all about the memories for me, and the bees could be a fun memory because I think that would be a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, totally. All right, man. I'm grateful.
All right, brother. Thanks for having me, man. Sorry for being late.
No, you good. See you guys.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.